How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investment. So many times people ask me why I don't use CBCS, and I've said many reasons why, but this just caught my eye, and I figured I would just give you a good example of what I've always talked about in previous videos. But one of the reasons why I say I don't use CBCS is because I feel like they slightly overgrade to make the customer more happy. So if you send in a book to CGC, it might come back a 9.4, and then but CBCS it comes back a 9.6. So you're like, oh hey, I got a little grade bump, okay. And now I've seen it where CBCS is stricter. I'm sending in a book right now where it was graded a 9.0 CBCS, and I think it can come back a 9.2. Yes, I understand that those books exist, but I'm talking about as a whole. I sent a lot of books to CBCS, and overall, I feel like they give it a slightly better grade overall. But this just caught my eye, and I figured I should show you an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. So look at this book right here. This is a 1.5 Hulk #1. I saw this up on I don't know, eBay or something, and you can look at the back picture, right? It's got a little tiny tear up here, right? Oops, right there, missing piece. But the back cover looks pretty good, right? You got a stain down there, something going on right there. But I mean, obviously the glaring issue is you got this, it's a remainder copy. And I've talked about remainder copies before. Usually what they did is back then, newsstands would just tear off the top label and send it back to the distributor and all that kind of stuff. And they would get like a portion of their money back or all their money back that they spent because it's basically an unsold book. And yeah. And so that's how it usually worked. And instead of sending back the entire book, which would cost more money in shipping and all that kind of stuff, they would just tear off the top label and send it back to the distributor or wherever it came from, and they would get a refund or something or a credit for their next purchases and stuff like that. So that's how they did it back then. And if you look at here, right there, it says a 1.5. A 1.5. CBCS gave this a 1.5. Now, this is not, to me, this is not very subjective, as in like everyone knows exactly what's going on. There's a huge piece of the cover. A third of the cover is missing. And it's not like, oh, well, it's got a spine split and it's got all these, whatever tears and, color break creases and stuff like that. And so you're like, well, looking at it, I don't know, blah, blah, I'll give it a this or whatever. No, this is, what the main issue is. A third of the cover is missing, right? The rest of the book looks pretty good, right? There's like a big crease that goes all the way through. I don't know if you can see, but it goes basically from the corner to the top. Like it, and I got this little piece missing here. Like let's pretend that this part was still there, I would probably give this, well, with this little piece missing, probably in a 5.0 range, right? Because it has this little piece missing around here, right? I'd probably give it like this. Let's pretend this is still there and it's in decent shape, like nothing, because you got this big crease that goes literally through the entire book, and then you got creases, whatever, maybe a spine split down there, but you also have this piece missing. Like, let's be honest, this back piece missing is like, what's the best it could possibly get with this back piece missing, even if this whole thing existed, right? Maybe a 6.0 if everything's perfect, maybe 6.5, somewhere in there, but it still has other issues. So I put it around 5.0 range if this top part existed. But they give it a 1.5. All right. So now let's look at this book, right? This is Spider-Man. CGC gave it a 1.5. Fantasy 15, right? And it looks like it has some splitting down at the bottom, and it has a tiny piece missing. But most of the cover's there. Like, yeah, it has creasing and stuff. That's a 1.5, right? I have some other Hulk. In my opinion, that CBCS Hulk should have been a 0.5. That's what I get. And I'm looking at other 0.5s, right? This is all stained, but it has the cover. It's pretty bad, right? You can't go any lower than 0.5 unless you're coverless, right? But here's another 0.5, right? Has most of the cover, but the spine is completely split, or the cover is. Okay, that's pretty bad, rough shape. But here's a good example, right? This is a 0.5 from CGC. This whole piece is missing. Now it says it's a coupon cut from the front cover, which is probably on the inside of this cover. It is a coupon, so they cut it, right? But if you look at it, this whole piece is missing. Back cover, yeah, it's got some issues, right? But this is basically how I would grade that CBCS one. Now this is a 1.0. Let's look for a 1.5. So this is a 1.5 according to CGC. Look at this 1.5, right? Now look at that 1.5. Which would you rather have? Like we look at the back cover, okay, it has some staining, right? But it's a 1.5. But look, the whole cover's here. Its cover's detached, so it obviously has some issues right there. The cover is attached there and right here. But overall, the whole book's there. You know, look another 1.5. Yeah, it's got some tiny pieces missing. Has this back piece missing right here. But that's a 1.5, that tiny back piece, not the whole front cover. See? Here's another 1.5. This one's all just tattered up, but the cover's there. Same. And then here's a great example of the difference for shot, right? Let's look at this again. Why is this a 1.5? Oh, half the cover is missing. I think a third. I think it should be a 0.5. But if you look at it again, you know, I'll zoom in more. You can see this crease starting right here. You got some creasing along. Fine, whatever. Here we go. Look at this. There you go. Third of the cover missing, actually a little less than a third because you still have Spider-Man's legs up here. About the same. Got some creasing and stuff like that. Look at the back cover, some puncture holes, but not a piece missing up at the top corner. But overall, I would say this is a nicer looking book than this. So yeah, that just kind of explains in a picture form why I don't really like CBCS. Because, I mean, you just look at it, a third of the cover is missing. It's like, come on. Like, this shouldn't be a 1.5. Like, most of the cover is missing. You know, I know CGC would grade it as 0.5. So that's kind of what, this kind of shows what I think about, like, CBCS. Now, maybe this is an older graded book, and maybe they've changed their policy or something like that. But this is this kind of stuff that is kind of, But that's why everyone always says, buy the book, not the grade, because you can't really trust these companies wholeheartedly, because CGC makes mistakes too. I don't know if this is a mistake. I mean, it's a pretty hard mistake to make, but nonetheless. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's kind of like, I have other reasons why I don't use CBCS, and I'll make probably a video on that, explaining every little detail. But this is just something that I came across, and I was like, I have to talk about it. So, all right, I hope you have a good day,